What's up, y'all, and welcome to this pop culture news break. I'm your host, Carrie. That's my assistant, Cedric. Now let's get into this breaking news. Unless you've been living on planet Mars or under a rock for the past couple of weeks, I am nearly positive you have at least heard buzzing about the brand new Britney Spears documentary that has taken the world by storm. The truly alarming documentary is produced by the New York Times and can be found on Hulu and is called Framing Britney. At its essence, the episode is truly about the conservatorship that Britney has been entangled in for the last 13 years. But in order to discuss the conservatorship in its entirety, they really step briefly back into other aspects of Britney's life and really kind of lay out what unfolded in order to land her in the conservatorship in the first place. I'm going to do my best during this episode to unpack the conservatorship of Britney to the best of my ability as I understand it now, based on the information that has been made public. Keep in mind that this is still going on and that the story is changing daily, even hourly at some points. And there are a lot of parts of this because it involves medical records that are not public knowledge. So there's only so much I can untangle here for you, but I'm going to do the best I can. First of all, we need to get into what a conservatorship actually is. A conservatorship is a court case where a judge appoints a responsible person or organization to care for another adult who has proven that they cannot care for him or herself or manage his or her own finances. Typically, conservatorships are most commonly put in place for elderly people who are no longer of sound mind to either make decisions regarding their own health and well-being, or they cannot function at a high enough capacity to manage their money or their estate. Britney Spears is a multi-platinum, Grammy award-winning pop icon. She is one of the most successful and celebrated entertainers in pop history, with nearly 100 million records sold worldwide. So how does someone with a wiki page of accolades a mile long land herself in the category of someone who cannot care for herself? The situation that Britney is in now is a direct result of the perfect storm of a lot of truly horrible things. Most notably, in my opinion, the incredibly toxic and broken media culture of the early 2000s. There was this way that Britney was crafted into this very hypersexualized woman, and then the obsession with her virginity and her as a sex symbol soon came to follow in the media afterwards. And all of this was really happening when she was still in her teens and, for the most part, still a child in her adolescence. Then we add in the way the media really catered to this narrative that she was the villain during her breakup with Justin Timberlake. There's actually a clip in the documentary of Justin Timberlake on a morning show, and the show host, point blank, asks him, "Did you fuck Britney Spears?" Like, what? Then we have Diane Sawyer literally attacking her for, quote, breaking Justin's heart in an interview on ABC. The public bullying and humiliation that she faced at the age in 20, 21, 22, 23 is truly mind-blowing. And those things alone would have been enough to be extremely mentally and emotionally taxing on even the strongest full-grown adults, let alone a young woman who's experiencing all that just in the span of her early 20s. But to be honest, Britney was able to keep a relatively even keel and handle all of those situations with quite a bit of grace and poise. It really wasn't until she became a mother and that criticism is now pointed not just at her as a person, but now her as a mother, that we kind of start to see her unraveling begin. In June of 2006, Britney does an interview with Matt Lauer, in which she actually breaks down in tears and admits that her greatest wish is to be left alone by the paparazzi. This clip from the documentary, in my opinion, is one of the most sobering of the entire show. And that's because we're seeing this woman, this young mother, who's achieved so much and has so much pressure on her shoulders. And we're seeing her in her most vulnerable state. She is sobbing on national television in this interview. And instead of compassion or empathy, the collective consensus of us as a society at that point is that we've pushed and pushed and pushed, and something's about to break. We can tell we are so close to getting that breaking point, and hold on, because once it breaks, there's going to be a lot of money to be made at the hands of this woman's suffering. And that's truly what happened. It all really takes a turn for the worst in November of 2006, when Britney files for divorce from her then husband, Kevin Federline, just 2 months after she gave birth to their second child, Jaden. As the custody battle for her kids begins, we really start to see the unraveling of Britney emotionally and mentally accelerate more and more and more. By the time 2007 hits, we are of witness to what I'm going to call Britney's lowest points. After leaving a rehab clinic, Britney had gone to the home of her ex-husband, Kevin Federline, asking to see her children. When he refused, Britney drove to a nearby hair salon and asked the hairdresser to shave her head. We all know the rest of the story very well. When the hairdresser refused to do so, she grabbed the clippers and famously shaved her own head, while 50+ paparazzi looked on and captured every moment of it. A mere days after this event, Britney again went to Kevin's house to try and see her kids, and when he wouldn't answer the door, she became upset about the swarm of cameras that were in her face and started hitting the car of a paparazzi with an umbrella. Again, this footage and these photographs took the world by storm. This was pre-social media and pre-every phone having a really great camera on it, so our access to celebrities and what they were doing was purely at the mercy of the paparazzi and what they could deliver to us via a tabloid. And these photos of Britney, in the middle of a mental and emotional breakdown, were worth millions of dollars. In 2007, no one was talking about mental health. No one was slowing down and thinking, this woman might need help. She might be struggling in a really serious way. There was simply too much money to be made at the hands of her suffering to slow down and try and think of what you could do to help her in the moment. By early 2008, Britney had lost physical custody of her kids and was taken to a hospital and placed on a medical and health hold with speculation of possible substance abuse. It's at this point that her dad, Jamie Spears, files for a temporary conservatorship over her. For me, the surprising fact is not that she needed a conservator. It's obvious at this moment in time, she needed help. What is surprising is that her dad, Jamie, was the one who was given the authority as her conservator. We know for a fact from this documentary and lots of other articles that she was never close to him and he was never a figure in her life growing up. By the end of 2008, we start to see some normalcy return to Britney's life. She's granted some visitation rights for her children, and she's even recorded an album and made plans to tour. Over the next couple years, the Britney comeback is in full swing. She is busy doing literally all the things. She's doing guest roles on huge network TV shows, she's playing concerts, she's touring, she even had a really hugely successful residency in Las Vegas. Read between the lines, she's making a lot of money. And all this time, as her conservator, her dad, Jamie, is making a percentage of everything she brings in. Reports say that from her Vegas residency alone between 2013 and 2017, Britney made $138 million. Even if Jamie was receiving a really minor percentage of that income, that's a huge amount of money. At one point, the co-conservator on Britney's case, Andrew Wallet, even asks for a raise, saying that this is a hybrid conservatorship and business. Wait, what? How is that even remotely possible, given the definition of a conservator is to act in the best interest of a person who does not have the capacity to act in their own best interest? It's at this point that it also becomes a little strange to the public that Britney is still in a conservatorship when all signs point to the fact that she is doing really well. Side note, it's important to know that Britney has two types of conservators. She has a conservatorship over her estate, which handles business deals and her finances. This is also the conservatorship that Britney's dad, Jamie, is the co-conservator of, along with a financial company called Bessemer Trust. This is also the leg of her conservatorship we've seen her try repeatedly to get her father removed from. Britney also has a conservatorship over her person, which controls where she can go, where she can live, who she can see, and all of her health and medical needs. This conservatorship is overseen by a licensed conservator. In Britney's case, Jody Montgomery. Reports actually seem to point to the fact that Britney is content with Montgomery as the conservator of her person. And in pleas to oust her dad, she has actually asked that the court give Montgomery the power to be the conservator of both her person and her estate. Now, even though Britney seems relatively content with this leg of her conservatorship, what's weird about it for me is that a conservatorship over a person is typically only put in place for people who are severely disabled and unable to provide basic day-to-day necessities or are in danger to themselves or others. And at one time, maybe back in 2007, Britney would have fit this bill of being a danger to herself and others. This criteria for someone who needs a conservatorship over a person is something we haven't seen Britney fit into for over 10 years now. But as I've learned through this process, getting a conservatorship removed isn't exactly a signed, sealed, delivered type of thing. In order to get her conservatorship removed, Britney would have to petition or ask the court to have it removed, which from my understanding is not something she has done. She would have to exhibit consistent behavior showing she can successfully meet her day-to-day needs. That includes food, housing, and health needs, as well as be able to provide for herself financially. She'd also have to prove that she has a support system in place in case she runs into issues while doing so. There would be an evaluation, and it would be determined whether or not she could manage her own affairs without being subject to undue influence. Now, on February 11th, the Los Angeles Superior Court's ruling maintained the conservatorship balance of power between Britney's father, Jamie Spears, and the court-appointed fiduciary, Bessemer Trust. It was Jamie's wish to regain sole control over Britney's financial orders. So while the judge on this case blocked Jamie Spears from regaining full control over Britney's financial aspects, she left a lot of unanswered questions on the table, including questions of why the broader conservatorship continues and why, despite Britney's repeated requests, her father has not been removed from his position of power over her. The thing about this conservatorship and this ongoing battle about it, if you will, is that Britney is paying for it. Literally. Not only is she paying for her own lawyer, she's paying for her conservators and for her conservators' lawyers. To me, it seems obvious that Britney's battle is with her father and his involvement in her life, not necessarily with the conservatorship as a whole. I honestly think that there might be something in the conservatorship that would dictate the time that she is able to spend with her children. There have definitely been rumblings that Britney has accepted the conservatorship because it offers her comfortable parameters with her children, which we know are of the utmost importance to her. This, I think, is maybe why we haven't seen her petition the court to totally remove the conservatorship, but instead why her focus is mainly just on having her father removed from his control over her finances. Now, Jamie has made it very clear that he is satisfied with the job he has done and wants to remain involved in Britney's finances. To which I want to know, why has he willfully removed himself from the conservatorship of her person, but stayed so insistent on needing to be involved in her money? Do you, as her father, find her estate to be of more importance than her physical, mental, and emotional well-being that you are happy to excuse yourself from? In the current setup, Jamie stands to continue to profit off of everything Britney does in her career. Keep in mind that Britney has stated that she is on a work strike and is refusing to work until he is removed as the conservator of her estate. Now, in terms of the documentary, I'm always hesitant and slightly leery to take a documentary or book or detailed article about someone as cold hard fact when the person who the documentary is about is not actually in said documentary. That being said, this fact is also kind of a red herring because Britney's conservatorship has say over what she does professionally. There's a good chance that even if she wanted to be in this project, those in charge of her business dealings wouldn't have allowed her to do so anyways. In terms of Britney as a person, we can look back now and be disgusted at how Britney was treated, and we should do that. But even more so, we have to acknowledge that this story of how we treat young women in this industry as a society must change. Because the awful truth is that we've seen this story numerous times before. We saw it with Lindsay Lohan and her troubles with addiction and substance abuse. We saw it with Amanda Bynes with her mental health struggles in 2010. Even to some extent, we saw it with the Olsen twins and then again with Miley Cyrus. The story of young women achieving great success and then being totally ripped to shreds by the media and by our society. And the truth is, this kind of scrutiny and this kind of bullying, for lack of a better term, just doesn't happen to young men in the same industry. It just doesn't. Off the top of my head, I can tell you 5 young women who went through a similar story as Britney Spears. And I can't even tell you one, young man in this industry who went through the same thing. It just does not happen to them. In a lot of ways, unfortunately, Britney is collateral damage. It's like our society needed to tear this poor woman down over and over and over again and just stomp on her in all these awful ways in order for us to get to this point where, now looking back at it, we can see the damage that the paparazzi and all the reporting and all the cameras and all the lights and the constant incessant need to be in her face while she struggled publicly, how much that really breaks a person down. In terms of Britney's conservatorship and if I think it should be completely removed, I truly don't know. Because this case deals so much with someone's mental health and those types of records are rightfully so private, there's a lot of things that we maybe don't know about. Yes, for the better half of a decade, she has avoided any huge public outbursts, and she really seems to be doing better. But maybe that's only because of how closely she's monitored now, or maybe it's only because she's highly medicated. We simply just don't know what we don't know. Do I think she's proven that she at least deserves to have her wishes taken into account about her father being removed from her finances? Yeah, I do. As I said in the beginning, you guys, this story continues to unfold and is ongoing. Let me know what you guys think about Britney and her ongoing battle to have her father removed from her conservatorship in the comments down below. For more of the hottest news in pop culture, you can head right back here every Friday for a fresh episode of Pop Cultured. In the meantime, you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Carrie.Gillaspie. Thanks so much for tuning in for this one, you guys. We'll see you next time.